One of the things that Linda did for me last year was she brought fire extinguishers, and that's what we gave away as our door prize, was fire extinguishers. And most people will go, fire extinguisher? What kind of a giveaway is that? Well, I'm not commenting on people's cooking skills, but sometimes we need a fire extinguisher in the house. And it really is a good thing to have, whether you have it in the garage and you have to dust it off every now and then, or you don't have one, you don't have any idea how to use one. Well, guess what you need to do? You need to go down and meet your firemen. They're cute, they're good looking, you know, not always single. But one of the things that I have found teaching from city to city is that firemen are really educators at heart. They really are. So if you want to protect the asset, let's go back to protecting this asset, because I want you to think about this. This is yours. This is something you can paint in any color you want, put pink flamingos out in the front yard. I should say, though, if you're living in a homeowners association, read the rules, because they can tell you what color your fence is, what color your outside paint is. They can tell you can't park that 18-wheeler cab out in your front. But the thing to remember about your home is it is yours. From the walls in, you can do things the outside world can't see. For some people, that's not always a good thing, but for a lot of us, it's our cave. It's our safe place to go to. But it's something very important to protect. So let's talk about home safety first. Are your doors, windows, garage, and home entrances secure? You know, the way I grew up, I lived in a small community. The doors were unlocked. You came home during the day. You didn't have to worry about, did you have a pass key or not? You knew there was a back door unlocked. But now that's not the way it is. We send our children off to school with a key on their wrist so that they can get home and they can get in on their own. What are we looking at in terms of, can you see out a front window or a front door who's knocking on your front door? Or can you see out if you see movement outside your building, outside your bedroom, or somebody peeking in the bathroom window? What kind of protection do you have for privacy? The other thing I want you thinking about is, you know, how do you feel you need, how much security you need? Do you need a security system that has a keypad? I would forget it. I would have to walk around with it written on my palm because I'd never remember the code. But it's very important where you live that you feel safe and secure when you rest those eyes at night and say, you know, I'm going to take a little nap. It's going to be about 8.5 hours and I'm going to feel better tomorrow. Do you want to look at outdoor lighting? This is something that you might put on your want to list after you've moved in and built the back deck and added the grill and, you know, redid the kitchen, got your countertops the way you want them and so forth. But also think about outside lighting. And do you want motion lights so that as people are creeping around in the shadows, they're going to turn on some lights and that'll push them on to the next house? Are you protecting yourself during your absence? Are you putting timers on your lights? Packing the car from the front driveway is not a good idea. Because while you're loading up the car, what are the passing cars noticing? You're going away, right? So sometimes it's easier to pack with the garage door down and then you just pull on out. Now, if you've got the kayak on top of the car and you got that's going to be a little harder to hide as you're pulling away. But one of the things to think about is when you're getting ready to go away, do you want to stop the newspapers? What are you going to do about the mail? What are you going to do about lights? I tend to, not so much on lights, but I tend to turn on the TV. Set it, lots of TVs now have sleep timer features that you can set the TV to come on and then go off. And I do that around my normal living pattern so that people say, oh, she's up, she's here, she's not away at the beach when I'm really away at the beach. So things like that, little measures like that you can preset and get ready for. Then you're not coming home to your first assignment after you've come back from a nice, wonderful vacation is filling out a burglary report. That's kind of crummy. Advertising your absence. when you go to pick up your cleaning, don't tell them, hey, you're getting ready to go on vacation. You seen the ads about notifying people on Facebook? You know, people. There's this wonderful feature that I finally learned on my Facebook. It's called checking in, where you can check in. You can tell people, hey, I'm sitting here, I'm sitting there. Well, I decided over the 4th of July that everybody had talked about Galveston, Galveston. Well, I'm a Florida beach girl. So I thought, I'd never been to Galveston, I went. So I did a checking in. I said, I'm sitting in the Gumbo Diner. I'm watching the 4th of July parade, da-da-da. But what else was I telling the folks back home? I'm not at home. Go break in and steal my grandfather's Oscar. There I am. I thought I was telling all my friends I was having a good time. But I was actually telling people, go break in and take what you want. When we talk about safety, we also talk about how do we get in if we've forgotten our key or we've lost our key. Be very cautious about who you leave a key with, because you want to be sure that that person doesn't take advantage of you, okay? Home safety in terms of exits. If you have a 2-story, do you have an exit plan if coming from the first floor to the second floor is cut off? So you want to look at exiting if there's a problem in the house. Also, people like to talk about or think about fire detectors. Again, go visit the firemen. They love to talk about fire detections and carbon monoxide testing. They're great about helping you understand those kind of things. I spent 9 years living in Destin, Florida. I don't know if you've ever heard of Destin, Florida. It's in the panhandle of Florida. It's just east of Fort Walton Beach. And what do they have there on a regular basis? Hurricanes. And I was the manager of the inpatient rehab program. So when the weather got bad, that meant we stayed in the hospital. As a management leadership level role, I had to stay in the hospital. That meant my dog was back at the beach house. So she would get snuck in to the rehab unit and stay under my desk during bad weather time. And people would go, isn't that breaking the rules? Well, no, because do y'all have animals? Have they ever gone through storms before? There's something about the acuity about animals that they pick up on weather more than we do. And it would actually trigger seizures in her. So it was actually better to have her on the unit for the patients, but also for my safety to think I wasn't worried about her. But the thing is, when you are in a weather situation, you need to think about emergency kits, right? Do we have little emergency kits at the house? Do we know the poison control phone numbers? Do we know, do you have the information you need, especially if you have young people at home? If they put something in their mouth and swallow it, do you know what to do next? So those kinds of things are important. Do you practice fire drills? Do you have an exit from the second story that your children will be able to automatically do even in their sleep? Because the more practice they have in it, the better off they are. Want to finish up by talking about household hazards. We get clutter and debris out in the garage. Let's remember that if you put certain items together, they can combust. And what happens when they combust? Kaboom! Or we have fires. Putting certain kinds of things in the dryer can create a hazard in the dryer. So remember, when you're storing old newspapers and then you throw some rags on top, that can be a problem. Or how are you storing the gasoline for your lawnmower? What are you storing it next to? Shouldn't store it next to the hot water heater or your heating and air conditioning systems. So for a lot of folks who move from renting to home ownership, renting, we have a little shelf with some, a hammer and screwdrivers and this and that. But then we get into a house and now we have a nice little workshop. But we have to protect the rest of the house based on what we're storing in our garages and our workshops. So again, when you're thinking about your home ownership and you get lulled into, this is my home and I come and go, Spring cleaning, fall cleaning is very important because it kind of gives you that awareness that, okay, we're going into winter. We're going to get the guy to come out and service our heating and air conditioning so that when we have to switch over to heating, we're ready to go. Then also look at cleaning out the clutter in the garage, cleaning out the clutter in your closets, pass those clothes on to a shelter or someone who needs them. But use those 2 times of the year. It's a habit I've had for 40 plus years. Is that twice a year we do spring cleaning and we look at what do we have and what can we pass on. That can be items, donate. There are people out there that are just getting started on their own. Let them get some of your pass-ons so you can move on and get something fresh for you. Because this is your home, so let's be safe in it and let's protect it. Now, Linda's been nice enough to let me talk about home maintenance because it's one of my favorite subjects. My most favorite subject is money. I love to talk about money, preferably other people's money. But for me, money is about hopes and dreams. Your money is your vehicle to get to those hopes and dreams. It got you to buying this house. So now you have the house. You have the asset, you drive up in the driveway every night, pull into the garage, or maybe you park outside, but this is your place. Maybe you like your neighbors, maybe you don't. Maybe you go to the little, I got an envelope this week, we're having a little gathering in the compound, at the end of September. Everybody barbecues, everybody brings a little something. Okay, I'll go, I'll meet and greet, because, I'm just shy. I'm really an introvert. When I come home, I just want to hide out in my place. But the thing is that we're all in this same boat. We all want to keep our values of our properties at the highest they can be, right? We want to sell it at the highest we can sell it for because that's how we make a profit and move on to our next house. So the thing that we do on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis to make that happen is maintain the house. The time to fix it up and get it all clean and pretty is not the week before you put it on the market. I used to buy houses and then live in them, and about 6 months before I left, then I get the contractor in. We do paint, we do flooring, we do this and that, and then I put it on the market and sell it and go, hey, this is a pretty cute house. I think I might want to buy it. Oh, I already own it. So the issue is that where I live now is when I bought it, I cleaned it up, moved in, and I've enjoyed it. So home maintenance can seem overwhelming or scary, but it's really just something we do every single day. When you do a little every day, it's not so overwhelming. So home maintenance starts with the big ticket items: your roof, your foundation, your plumbing, and your electricity. Now, hopefully you hired an inspector who came and evaluated the house before you bought it, so you knew where you were starting from. You got an idea of how old those systems were. How old is that roof? How old is that compressor? How old is that stove and that microwave? So when you started realizing, okay, now we need to plan for replacements. Maybe you want to ask the seller, the new buyers come to look at your house may say, wow, that's an 18-year-old roof. Can you give an allowance for that roof? Well, no, you're just going to put a new roof on and you enjoy it. So you want to look at the major systems. Those are the things that you want to watch. This is why people encourage you to trim the trees off your roof, because the trees create a sap that is detrimental to your actual roof. The other thing you want to think about is how you maintain your plumbing. The most expensive time to have a workman out is when? Holiday weekends, right? So, we got Labor Day coming up. You don't want to discover Saturday morning before you have a big barbecue Saturday night that your commodes are backed up and water's backing up into the tub or the shower. So this is when you realize, we've been overlooking those pipes. And is everything working? When you see a leak, don't just put a pot under it and say, okay, that's taken care of. Let's take a look at what's causing the leak so that you can pay for it and maybe get a replacement. Go meet your guy at Lowe's or Home Depot in the department that you need. And when they are the least busy, maybe have somebody come out and do the repairs for you. Negotiate with cash, you get a better deal. So what I would like to recommend to you is that you think in terms of season. Now, I know in Texas, we don't really feel any change from winter to spring to summer. It's just like constant warm, and then it's summer. And then the warm just gets lower. Sorry, I got away from the microphone. But something happens to us when you live in other parts of the country, which I have, and Linda has as well, is there is a distinction between winter and spring and summer and fall. Some people even spend thousands of dollars to travel to other parts of the country to see this happen. You know, have any of you ever thought about driving through New England to watch the leaves color change? People spend thousands of dollars to do that. People spend thousands of dollars to go to Montana and Wyoming and to ski because that's snow. Hell, it's winter. But when we have a house here in Texas, it's very important to pay attention to certain things. And one of them is our foundations. Because the soil is so porous, that it tends to shift, and that shifts our homes. So we need to watch the watering. But then what are we seeing right now? Well, we're so many inches below water level, and I was hearing just this morning, getting dressed coming in. Let's not get into level 4 restrictions on our sprinklers. But we've got to keep the foundations in good shape. So one of the things is you want to watch that. You want to watch the kind of plants you plant around your houses to make sure they're not sucking up all the water that needs to go to the foundation. The other thing is you might want to break into sections of the year certain things to check on. For example, y'all have the baking soda in your freezers, the little boxes, and in the refrigerator. Well, when you're changing those out, what are you doing with the old one? Are you just throwing it away? How about we pour half of that box down the kitchen sink and half of the box down the main bathroom sink, throw a little vinegar behind it, throw a little cold water, and it's going to start to bubble, which is a good thing, because when you flush that with cold water, is it doing to the pipes? It's removing the sludge, the hair, the nail bits, the whatever has been falling down those sink drains, and it helps you flush out the sink. That keeps the plumber away. Sorry, plumbers that are in the house. You also want to think about, your maintenance on your big equipment. You want to think about maintaining that heating and air conditioner. If you have a chimney, anybody have a fireplace? It's so romantic. Let's put some logs on the fire. We'll have some wine. We'll have a romantic evening, just the two of you. And you don't know to open the damper. Now, I grew up in the Northeast, so I know what a damper is. And I know what happens when you don't open that damper. But most people in Texas don't know about dampers. That's that device that opens and closes the chimney. Okay? This is when I get to use my hands. So when you've got that chimney and the damper is closed and you start a fire, where's that smoke going? Right back at you in that romantic scene. So we want to know how to open those dampers. So if you have a fireplace for the first time, for sure get it cleaned, because you don't know the oils and the bird poop and all the stuff that's hanging inside the chimney. You want to make sure it's a safe chimney and it's been flanged correctly. But you also want to make sure that you know how to use the damper. So these are new things about living in a house you may not remember, but just create a good maintenance schedule. Start checking everything about once a quarter. Make sure everything's working okay. If it isn't, it's most of the time cheaper to fix it when it's small than wait for the big things to happen. So remember, when it comes to home safety and home maintenance, it's your job to build yourselves a plan and then work the plan. It can be hey, it's Saturday afternoon, it's our quarterly home maintenance, we're going to get in t-shirts and have a family thing, get some pizza afterwards, but it's something that everybody can get involved in because you're protecting the most important thing, the place you live.